what would make Stu sell the team? What would also make Stu keep this baseball team?
Well, in my world, I don't think he has a choice. Everybody who's dealt with him has been burned. So there's no getting a stadium deal in this market anymore. And Rob Manfred knows that. There are 3 groups that have publicly come forward in Tampa saying they want to buy the team. 2 of those groups has expressly said they want to build a stadium in Tampa. There is a, quote, unnamed group that I have spoken to, representatives from that group, that I know who they are. I can't tell you who they are.
Sure.
And because they want to keep this all under the wraps, because that's where deals get done. He's not been able to get permission from Major League Baseball to talk to Orlando folks.
Right.
They've not talked to Stu Sternberg officially.
There's a reason that no professional sports team puts all their eggs in the tourism basket and says, you know what, that's what's going to float our fan base. I've seen this movie before. Why would Stuart Sternberg even want to be part of this mess where people say publicly, we don't want to work with you, we can't make a deal work? It's easier to cash out.
You know, I've been told privately it's gotten ugly. It's gotten ugly publicly.
There's a whole other like $20 or $30 million of interior work that I guess needs to be done.
Or more.
Is all this going to be ready, by the way? And what happens when that stadium sits exposed to another hurricane season in the next couple months here? Make this part make sense, because as it stands right now, I don't think the Rays for sure have a place to play next season as of right now.
You are absolutely correct.
Here's Brody Brazil.
It's a pleasure to be joined by JP Peterson here on my YouTube channel. And I know, JP, a lot of people from Tampa are watching this saying, hey, that's JP, he's with Brody. But on the flip side, I also know there's a lot of people who are not from the Tampa Bay area region. So just give us the quick background, introduction, and bio of yourself that we should all know about.
Well, I've been in this market for almost 30 years now, covering all different types of sports. Longtime local NBC news anchor here at News Channel 8. Worked for the Lightning, been working for the Lightning for 10 years as one of their broadcasters, doing post-game shows and intermission reports. So been around Tampa Bay for a long time, been covering this team since its inception, since its first game, the Rays I'm talking about, in 1998. So, and I've been covering this stadium saga for 1,000 years, I believe it's been. And so at least it feels that way. Well, I know the Tampa Bay market pretty darn well, and really appreciate you having me on because every time you do a video on the Rays, trust me, I get notified. Everybody in my comments is like, Brody dropped another video. Brody dropped it. I'm like, awesome. I can't wait to watch it. And I watch almost all of them when I can. So you're doing a great job. I really appreciate you having me on. And it's incredible how passionate people are about this subject.
Yeah.
And it's infecting Orlando as well.
Right.
So we have Orlando people, the Tampa people in this area. And it's just, I think people are just curious in general, around the sports world and baseball, what's going on with this. Cause these are different times with regional sports networks collapsing and the business of baseball changing dramatically. It's interesting times. I think a lot of people are watching this to see where it's all going.
A couple things. We're just two Bay Area guys, just different Bay Areas. We're both hockey guys, but we're not going to do the post-mortem on the Bolt season. We're going to talk Rays here. But we could go hockey if we wanted to.
We could. We'll do that on another show.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, all of the talk that we're about to have here, it could be meaningless if Stuart Sternberg just decides, I'm not going to sell the team. Or maybe our conversation is different, right? So much of what people talk about here, whether it's Orlando or Tampa or St. Pete, it kind of hinges on that one main thing. So that's kind of where I wanted to start here. And you've got a lot of background and intel on this. It's twofold. What would make Stu sell the team? What would also make Stu keep this baseball team?
Well, in my world, I don't think he has a choice because he is not going to get a deal in Tampa because those folks don't want to work with him. He had a deal with the folks in Tampa in 2019, did the press conference, did everything like he did in St. Pete, and then walked away from the deal at the end. Did the same thing in St. Petersburg, had the deal done, signed. Everybody thought it was delivered. I was very skeptical even when it was signed and said, I don't think it's going to get done. And it didn't get done. He walked away at the last minute. So he's a very difficult person to work with. I've spoken to multiple people that have been in negotiations with him, with the stadiums and other things, and they all say the same things. It's a very dishonest conversation. And it's not just me saying it anymore. Now you have politicos from Pinellas County, the city council, that there were no bigger backers of Stu Sternberg and the Rays than Mayor Welsh. He says, I'm not working with him anymore. Absolutely not. His partners sued him in court, and he had to settle that out of court. A humongous settlement, is I've been told by some sources close to that. So everybody who's dealt with him has been burned. So there's no getting a stadium deal in this market anymore. And Rob Manfred knows that. The commissioner of baseball, he understands that. Major League Baseball went to the extraordinary effort publicly to threaten his revenue sharing money. That has never been done before. So he is persona non grata here. And I believe among many of the baseball owners who have been told for decades that it's Tampa's fault, that it's St. Pete's fault, and now they all know it's Stu Sternberg's fault. So they know the shenanigans that he's been playing with revenue sharing money, and they're not happy about it. And the fact of the matter is, Stu Sternberg has held up baseball expansion, and of course in the Oakland Bay area as well.
Right.
But with that, with the A's Vegas situation seemingly solved, but we don't know, right?
Right.
This is the remaining piece, right? So all the other baseball owners are like, we want our $4.4 billion in expansion money, and you're holding it up. And you told us it was because of everybody else, and now we know that's not true. So imagine how pissed they are at Stu Sternberg. And that's so, I've been told privately it's gotten ugly. It's gotten ugly publicly. So I don't think he has a choice, quite frankly. He may have some legal outs that I don't know about, but as far as I know and what Manfred has said publicly, what political folks have been told here privately, he doesn't. Now, here's the other piece to that. There are 3 groups that have publicly come forward in Tampa saying they want to buy the team. 2 of those groups has expressly said they want to build a stadium in Tampa. There is a, quote, unnamed group that I have spoken to, representatives from that group, that I know who they are. I can't tell you who they are.
Sure.
And because they want to keep this all under the wraps, because that's where deals get done. If you see people publicly making exclamations, and I've had some of them on my show, they're typically doing that to get the attention of Major League Baseball to say, hey, what about us?
You talking about Orlando right now?
Pretty much. Yes. Orlando, a couple of groups here locally of gentlemen I know very well and are friends of mine. I've had them on my show, and I've said publicly, I don't think I know that they're not the preferred group. They're trying to be, but they're not.
Right. There's
There's another group with some very big names, highly respected, deep pockets, that have great connections on the Tampa side, the Hillsborough County side, that have a stadium plan, generally speaking. They have the money to do it. And it's not going to be, as everybody says, well, Hillsborough County doesn't have the money. They don't have to pay for the whole thing. This group wants to develop an area, have an entertainment zone around it, and build and put up most of the money so they can get the job done. And Manfred knows who these people are. He's spoken to them at length. He knows who they are. They are the preferred group. Ron DeSantis, I know for a fact, the governor of Florida, has also spoken to them and is part of, I'm not saying part of the deal, but is working with them. So all of this is going on behind the scenes. Now, can Stu decide not to sell and sue? And I guess you want to go to court with Major League Baseball? I think it's a really bad idea. So I think we're in a kind of a zone where he wants, I'm told, $2 billion for the Rays. They are worth about 1.25 according to Forbes, 1.4 according to Sport Track, and he turned down an offer for 1.8 last year, reportedly, or a year and a half ago. So I think he's holding out for as much as he can. Another key kind of piece is he's not been able to get permission from Major League Baseball to talk to Orlando folks.
Right.
They've not talked to Stu Sternberg officially.
Okay.
So to me, all this points that he's got to sell the team. Major League Baseball highly desirous of him selling the team to this group so they can get on with expansion and everything else.
It makes me go back to what I've been saying all along here, is that I've seen this movie before. And when everything is lined up, all the cards are lined up, like there's no way this can continue. And why would Stuart Sternberg even want to be part of this mess where people say publicly, we don't want to work with you, we can't make a deal work? it's easier to cash out, right? But on the flip side of that, nobody's going to make you sell the team. There's also the Orlando situation, and let's just bring it up here and now because I know that's been more of the talk and the hype. It really has felt quiet on the Tampa and St. Pete side, but with Orlando recently,
purposefully.
And exactly. And to your point, maybe sometimes the more you're talking doesn't necessarily mean the more is actually happening.
Exactly.
But it goes like this. If Sternberg is never forced to sell this team, like actually do it, like if nobody's going to pry it out of his hands, there's also the fact that maybe an Orlando group comes in and just flat out outbids any Tampa Bay area group, right? So there's that. Also, to the point you made earlier, that Major League Baseball just wants this problem to go away. Like, we want you settled. We don't want to deal with this. The other owners just say, hey, let's get the highest valuation for your team because that helps our team in turn, helps all the teams in turn. Let's get this over with. I also, and I don't say this disrespectfully because I've been in the Oakland-Las Vegas situation. They'll look at Orlando and say, well, that's a more popular, that's a more desirable place to be. That's where I take my family to Disney World, right? I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying from the outsider's perspective, there's a sexy part of that, and it's also just the easier thing to do. And for those in Tampa who say, well, baseball promised us that this is a viable market, and Rob Manfred said, I mean, you'd have to have a vote of owners. They would never vote for that. I've seen this movie before. All those things kind of add up, JP, to something where I'm looking at this saying, I don't want this to necessarily go the same way of what I just experienced firsthand.
Yeah.
How do you see all that?
I see the Oakland and Tampa Bay situations as drastically different.
Sure.
And mostly because there's already a team in the San Francisco Oakland market,
right,
and they're very successful.
Right.
So them leaving that market is meaningless to baseball, essentially.
Well, they've said as much too, and not to the pleasure of anybody here. It's like, well, you still have a team, and it's like, I don't think you understood what this region is all about. And to that point, okay, well then let's take the White Sox out of Chicago, let's take the Mets out of New York, let's take the Angels out of Southern California, and that's a ridiculous thing to even think of. But for some reason, that's okay here, I suppose. Anyway, sorry. Yeah,
it's very true. And so I think it's different in that baseball does not want to lose the 11th largest media market in Tampa,
right?
And growing. And I will say this, that I think that's the first time Orlando has ever been called sexy. By the way, you just did it. That's the first time, in my experience, one of my favorite Broadway musicals, right, is the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
They make fun of Orlando, and there's a reason why they do that.
You know what I'm saying?
Orlando.
It's a tourist, just like Vegas. It is a tourist destination. Right. And by the way, there's a whole tourist piece to this too, because when everybody says, all right, tourists in Vegas are going to go to A's games, and I say, I don't think that's why people go to Vegas. But on the flip side, twice as many people go to Orlando every year, and it's more family oriented, but still, JP, I don't think that there's a reason that no professional sports team puts all their eggs in the tourism basket and says, you know what, that's what's going to float our fan base.
Right.
Really?
Because, well, first of all, have you seen the prices of Disney and Universal?
Well, can you imagine a baseball ticket? Yeah.
Who's got money? They're coming for the theme park. We know that.
It's a $5,000 weekend.
Left over?
It's a $5,000 weekend. No lie.
Exactly.
Ask me how I know.
Exactly. Seriously. But that's a major point. And that's what I say to all these Orlando folks is, where is the data point that says that these 70 million tourists are going to want to go to baseball games?
Right.
I mean, most of them are coming from markets where they have baseball already. Right. Now, maybe they're coming from Boston when the Red Sox are in town in Orlando, and they're going to do both. That's a possibility. But I think generally speaking, people are coming there's no data point that says, that I've seen anywhere, that people that come to a market for tourism are going to go now for in Vegas's case for a football game. Yeah,
right. It's one day.
It's like a one-off.
There's only 8 or 9 of them per year. It's on a weekend.
Yeah, for hockey, how many tourists go to the hockey games?
I will say
not many. You know why?
Well, I will say this
because the locals eat up all the tickets. They love their team.
That's true. But you know what else? Vegas in the dead of winter, where it's not freezing cold like it is up north. There's a lot of snowbirds from those Canadian teams. They do make that road trip. But to your point, you don't base your fan base on tourism. Like that's
81 games.
And I mean, even the A's have projected as much as 30% of fans at every game are going to be tourists. And I just I've been to thousands of sporting events in my life. I've never seen that. And there's probably a reason why. But I also want to make the point here, like you and I are not here, at least I'm not here to bash Orlando. I'm not here to say that baseball couldn't work there. No. There's just 2 parts about it. I don't disrespect the Dreamers and what they're trying to do and that group is trying to do, but I am a little bit sensitive about poaching another region's baseball team. And especially when a hurricane is the reason why they're in the temporary spot. And I do want to talk about Steinbrenner Field. So I feel like Orlando, to me, is legitimate, but it's a really aggressive way that they have to do this if, in fact, they want to do it right. And I'll never see the day where I think there's a team in Orlando and Tampa. I don't think they would never plant those two teams in the same region, right?
That's definitely not happen. No, because they need the regional draw to get the numbers where they need to be.
Right.
And another thing about Orlando is they don't, there's a lot of steps that they have to take. They don't have the land appropriated yet. They haven't purchased the land. They have an owner that says he'll put up $1.5 billion. Well, and they don't have anybody from the public side that has been over the moon about getting baseball. Like they are spending a lot of money on Camping World Stadium. Most of their tourist dollars are already slated for that.
Right.
So I think if I'm doing the math, it's $2 billion for the team. That's what Stu wants.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's another $1 billion for a relocation fee. I don't know how MLB sees that.
Well, let me tell you how they do it. Remember, like I said, I've seen this movie.
Yes.
They waive the relocation fee. And it's like, well, what
they could do that?
Do you have one? Because they've never actually, so if I did all the research on this, they've always talked about it. They've never actually enforced the relocation fee. So we don't even know ballpark what it is. But that's what I'm saying. That's what a lot of people looked at Oakland and said, well, how's all this math going to add up? Well, baseball just says it doesn't even exist. Anyway, it doesn't matter. To that point, we think there are guidelines and rules here, and there's not. But go ahead and keep doing that math that you're doing.
So there could be. So even if there's no relocation fee, that's $4 billion.
Right.
And the other thing baseball doesn't want is they don't want the Rays to take up an expansion city, a possible expansion city, even one like Orlando that they may not even really be considering, because what Orlando is leverage against Portland, against Charlotte, against San Antonio, against Nashville, to drive the price up on expansion. So they want that market to be out there as well. So for so many reasons, from a Tampa perspective, why would you abandon 30 years of building a fan base, which they've done here? And people can talk about the attendance all they want. I'll just say quickly, terrible owners, both of the ones we've had, alienated the fan bases, especially Stu Sternberg, the one they have now. Terrible location for the stadium. Absolutely ridiculously located on the edge of the market, St. Petersburg. Mm-hmm. Beautiful city.
Yeah.
Gorgeous city. Awesome downtown, which, by the way, doesn't even need a baseball stadium.
Yeah.
But it's on the edge of the market. Terrible to get to.
Hard to get to, yeah.
And the people in the demographic don't go to the games.
Right.
And most of the people, and I've been told this by people that actually do research on this for mailings, is that in Pinellas County, 50% of the county leaves for a long stretch of time in the summer for baseball, which is when they play baseball games. So you still have way more in the limited data that we've seen. The Rays have told us that 75% of their ticket holders are in Hillsborough County.
Right.
And so the people that even live around, and there's not many, don't go to the games.
Right.
And baseball has all long had a rule that you need 1.5 million people within a 30-minute driving distance, to build a stadium. And they've circumvented that in St. Petersburg because they just built it before they had a team.
Right.
And this is why baseball said we're not going to, when their first round of expansion came, Miami got the team.
Right.
Tampa didn't, because they knew this was a failed location. The only reason Tampa got a team, or Tampa Bay, is because the owner at the time, Vince Namoli, threatened to sue baseball, had a great case. So to avoid litigation, they gave us a team. So it was cursed from the start because of the location. And even Bud Selig said, about 7 to 8 years after he awarded the team, he said, well, eventually it's going to be in Tampa. So they've always known that it's going to be in Tampa. That was the deal. There's 2.4 million people within the 30-minute drive of downtown Tampa, compared to 600,000 in St. Petersburg. So it was never going to succeed there. In this last deal of building another one, spending $2.4 billion in public cost for another one in a failed location, was the stupidest idea in the world, which is one of the reasons I said, even when they signed the deal, it's not going to happen. MLB was not going to let them build a stadium. I think maybe if they, just to finally get it done, they would have said, okay, just do it. Even though we know it's going to fail. We just want to move on with expansion. So just do it. But I think in the end, it was always, I don't think Stu Sternberg was ever going to build that stadium, because he didn't have the money, didn't have the want to. It was in my opinion, a real estate grab. So he at the 11th hour, he blamed it on everybody else and said no. Point being, they love this market. And Manfred has said this a million times. We love the Tampa Bay market. It's the 11th largest market. It's growing. We just have to put it centrally located stadium, a state-of-the-art stadium, instead of a horribly located, obsolete stadium before it even opened,
right.
Tropicana Field. Put it in a desired location where there's millions of people, and within, including the Orlando area, by the way, they see as a regional asset, you have almost 7 million people within an hour and a half drive. They're not leaving this market. They're not leaving this market. And I don't think especially with they know what's in place. If they can get the team sold to this group, it's, everything they wanted, they would have. And the only thing standing in the way of all this progress, expansion, progress in Tampa, redevelopment of Tropicana Field, the millions of people that are being affected by that is one guy. Right. One guy. And at some point, he's going to get outvoted. At some point, he can't hold on forever, in my opinion.
I know you know this from being around Tampa for a long time, but we have this other connection between the two Bay Areas. The San Francisco Giants almost became the Tampa Bay Giants. I mean, they were literally out the door. Season tickets sold in Tampa. I think they already had mock-ups of jerseys. It was on the headlines, all that stuff. So it's interesting, that connection. But I actually want to take it back to Tropicana Field since we're kind of around that vicinity right now. I know the Rays still have, 3 more years of baseball seasons under contract to be played at that stadium. It's twofold here. Number one, what's the likelihood that all 3 of those years get played by the Rays at that stadium? And how about even next year, JP? I know the roof is funded, or it's been approved to be repaired, $22.5 million. There's a whole other $20 or $30 million of interior work that I guess needs to be done.
Or more.
Is all this going to be ready, by the way? And what happens when that stadium sits exposed to another hurricane season in the next couple months here? Make this part make sense, because as it stands right now, I don't think the Rays for sure have a place to play next season as of right now.
You are absolutely correct. And I just had a very good source tell me this morning that he has the video to prove it. The damage just from the last 2 rounds of rainstorms that we've had here, which were considerable, the dugouts are flooded. The dugouts are flooded.
Yeah.
Chest deep water. The plate, the entire he worked, I want to say that publicly. He's in there a lot.
Yeah.
And it smells horrible. The mold smell is awful. And if my point is, if you're not pumping the water out of there when it gets in there,
it's like a bucket.
Then are you really committed to getting it done on time?
Right.
I mean, what do we see? We don't see a whole lot of stuff going on there. If they're not pumping the water out of the dugouts, are they really, or are they just buying time till they can get a settlement done?
Right.
And the Rays can figure out something else to do.
Well, I mentioned the contract, because that does exist. But I think what you're about to say is this stuff can be escaped by both parties, by either side, pretty much in 2 seconds if either side really wants or needs to get out of this, right?
Well, certainly. Do you think the city of St. Petersburg wants to spend $60 million? An estimate, that's at the low end. That's $60 million that they know right now. Once they get in there, when you redo your house, usually doubles. Can you imagine having a house this big?
Yes, sir.
What do you think the over budget's going to be on that deal?
Always tack on 50% more, because that's what's going to happen.
And they know this. The St. Petersburg, the city of St. Petersburg wants nothing to do with rebuilding the Trop. Because then, even if you rebuild it, say you spend $60 million at the lowest part, probably closer to 100, you only have 3 years left on the contract. You're gonna blow it up in 3 years anyway.
Right.
And with a horrible use of funds.
Right. Of course.
And so, first of all, nobody knows what the final ticket will be. Nobody knows if the Rays are going to even want to play there anymore. So there's so many ifs. If the city could get out of it, and Stu Sternberg would do a settlement with him, which would be great for the city of St. Petersburg. He could be very magnanimous and say, what's best for the city of St. Petersburg is that we do a settlement so you can blow that thing up now like it needs to be.
Right.
And you can move on with doing the Trop and making the black community from the gas plant whole like we said we were going to do, and then of course we didn't.
Right.
And they could move forward with all that stuff, but he's not doing that. He's holding the city hostage again to see if they're going to get this. And at the beginning of the process, they said, we don't want it repaired.
Right.
Brian Holt said, we don't want it repaired. And then a week later, they were like, you know what? We want it repaired because we want you to pay for it.
Right.
Because they knew that they got some leverage. Right.
Right.
It's like they're so selfish. It's always about them and how much money they can make. And that's why the fans are just done with Sternberg. They're done with this group, and everybody wants to move on to another group locally based that actually has the best interest of the entire city in mind. And so to your point, I don't think it gets repaired. No, they don't. I don't think they want it to get repaired. So there's just not a lot of positive momentum that's going to make that happen.
So with all of this going on, and the Rays are the backbone of this, right? But Major League Baseball is also a bigger business, and Major League Baseball could probably carry a little bit more weight politically and financially, obviously. It's almost like baseball and the commissioner, Rob Manfred, they let Orlando pop up, and then that's a conversation. Or they let the Rays be non-committal to Tropicana Field or not. And I get it. Major League Baseball is a reflection of all the owners. Like, that's who the commissioner represents. So the commissioner is going to do what all the owners and specifically one of them wants. But it's almost like baseball is letting all of this get a little bit messy. And we can talk next about having two of its major league teams playing in minor league ballparks this year. And
embarrassing.
I know you've been out to Steinbrenner Field. And in the case of the Rays, a hurricane ripped the roof off. Right? The A's chose to go play in Sacramento, where there's a bunch of problems, and it's going to get hot. I know it's already started to get hot down in Florida, and I know that the second half of their season is mostly road heavy, which, by the way, what a terrible disadvantage that is for a baseball team that wants to have success. Like, you're on the road for 8 straight weeks after the All-Star break. But anyway, my point is, baseball really hasn't done anything here to kind of clean this up. They've kind of let teams like the A's and Rays make this mess, and nobody's here to say, almost like be a parent and say, hey, would you mind not doing that? What do you think about that?
I think it comes down to ownership. They've allowed John Fisher and I got his name right, John Fisher.
Yes.
And Stu Sternberg to run amok, and they don't care about what they do to the cities and the places around them. NFL doesn't do that.
Right.
They don't let guys buy teams that aren't deep pocketed and well vetted,
or classy,
the NHL,
or operate like in a certain way where like this doesn't. And I had this on my notes here. You think about, you're a hockey guy. None of this is happening with the NHL and Gary Bettman and Bill Daly. They don't let the Coyotes were a situation, right? And the Coyotes at Mullet Arena were a situation. And literally, Bill Daly and Gary Bettman fly down to Arizona, and after Alex Murillo had multiple chances, right? I mean, it's kind of like the Rays. It's kind of like the A's. They flew down there and said, look, we're going to buy the team from you. We'll sell it to Ryan Smith in Utah. We'll give you 5 years. Figure it out. We'll give you your team back. And Murillo goes, peace out. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm good.
Like, could you imagine that happening?
Stu would do that.
Can you imagine that happening here? Right? It's crazy.
No, baseball, and I think baseball deserves this, frankly, because they've allowed these two owners to run amok, and they're paying for it dearly. So I think they've probably learned lessons here, and which is why. And no offense to the folks in Orlando, they want solid owners.
Yeah.
And I don't know Mr. Workman at all. I don't know what his wealth is. And I don't know who all their investors are. I'll just be honest about that. Sure. But I know who these guys are that want to buy the Rays, and they are deep pocketed and they are highly respected, and not only in Tampa Bay, but worldwide. Mm-hmm. So I think baseball sees that and says, I know they do. They see these guys and they go, we want these guys as baseball. We want these guys in our club. So I think ownership is the biggest problem here. It's embarrassing that these teams are having to play there. That said, I'm going to the game tonight. I've been to three games. It's awesome. It is an awesome experience for me. I love outdoor baseball. I hated the Trop. I could not stand the Trop.
That's half of it, though, for Rays fans. And I say this respectfully, is anybody who's going to a game, number one, it's in Tampa, which I do want to get your take on, like just the location of Steinbrenner Field. It's not a major league facility, but it's still in Tampa, which people like. But also, you must sit there and go, this is surreal. Like, I'm watching a Rays home game outdoors. So, like,
I was there.
There's some novelty to that, right?
Yeah, and we're, sun setting behind the grandstands, and it's this beautiful, gorgeous purple and orange and yellow sky.
A sunset.
And there's this nice cool breeze coming in, and smelling the grass and hearing the crack of the bat that certainly sounds a hell of a lot better outdoors than it does indoors.
Right.
And I'm just like, you see the dirt, guys have dirt on their uniform, and you're like, oh, this is baseball. Seriously,
a grass stain. Look at that.
Yes. Baseball was meant to be played. It's part of the allure, the romanticism of the the game. It's
Right.
not meant to be played in a Walmart.
That's true.
And which is what we've put up with for 25 years at Tropicana Field.
But to that point, I do think that maybe the Tampa Bay fan base has already learned that it's not sustainable to do this, right? Or at least you really have to like rig the schedule so that you're basically never playing day games, right?
Yeah, they can't. They played a day game the other day, and the stadium was about half filled. Because in the direct sunlight, it's brutal.
Yeah,
it's brutal, and it's the same for Bucks games. They've got to, they need a roof on that stadium as well,
right?
Which may be part of the final solution for both teams. Little tease there. So I think it is going to be tough. The summer's going to be tough. There'll be less rainouts than you think. People overestimate that.
Okay.
Because they've had a minor league team there, and they average about six rainouts a year, which isn't ideal, but that's about average, I think, for most outdoor stadiums. That's games that are canceled and have to be rescheduled. There's going to be more rain delays than that. I get it. It's part of it. And the day games are going to be really tough. There's a day game tomorrow. It's going to be hot.
Yeah.
So you got to pace yourself. It's not ideal. But that said, it's a beautiful experience. The intimacy of that park is amazing. That's why I say if you get an opportunity, just go and watch a team. I'd say the same thing about Sacramento. I know I haven't been there, but watching a major league game in a minor league stadium is pretty cool in my estimation. The traffic is non-existent because it's only 10,000 fans.
Right.
You park right across the road from where it is, so it's an easy walk in. I think it's a great experience, a fantastic experience.
Minus the extreme weather and heat days and day games at Steinbrenner Field. Is attendance going well? And I don't mean announced attendance. Like are they pretty full? Because that's something in Sacramento where it's being announced, hey, 10,500, and you see a photo that like can't be doctored, and you're like, that's like 4,500, 5,200, maybe 6,100 people total.
I've seen games that they've announced to sellouts. I'd say probably were 80% full.
Yeah. Okay.
So 8,000. It hasn't been packed every night.
Okay.
And it hasn't been packed every night across baseball, by the way. Even the Yankees stadium
totally get it.
Completely empty.
Baseball's
a tough sell right now.
I was going to say, does that like make you think two ways about it? Like they can't even have this place packed every single night? Because that's a weird, like, and it's the A's and Rays too, right? We know teams with fans that are a little bit on edge about a lot of things, or at least the Rays at least have a fan. The A's don't even have a fan base anymore. I'll be honest about that. I don't know what or where their fan base is. They have fans. And maybe they're in Sacramento right now, but I don't think the A's carry a fan base with them like Rays fans, or like they're all Rays fans.
The television ratings are off the charts here.
Yeah.
It's the #1 rated show on cable every single night in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
The TV ratings are fantastic. They have a huge fan base here, but they're sick of the owner.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to support the owner, and I've been that way myself. I will not buy a ticket. I will not put money into his pie. Now I'll go to the games. Somebody gives me a ticket like tonight, and I will buy beers for people, but I will not. I know I'm getting soaked for that as well.
I was going to ask about that part.
On principle, I'm just not going to do it, and I am not alone. Yeah. People, and rightfully so. What this guy has done to this community is just it's horrific. It's dishonest. It's just horrible in so many ways. And we've got two other ownership groups, with Mr. Vinnick at the Lightning and the Glazers with the Buccaneers, that are just exemplary owners in every way, how involved in the community they are. And Jeffrey Vinnick gives away $50,000 every home game. Jeez. And did it during COVID as well.
Wow.
When they didn't even have fans, and have given over $50 million of charity for the community hero. And that's what they're dealing with. The Rays have just never been that way. Yeah. Sternberg his family never moved here. He never really became part of the community. He's got this carpetbagger reputation, I think, is well deserved. And so it's just, people are not, and that's part of the problem. It's a huge part of the problem here. It's a huge part of the problem in Miami. They don't support these ownership groups that will suck hundreds of millions of dollars out of the team and not put it into payroll.
Yeah.
And even though the Rays have, quote, never won a World Series, but they've had some good seasons, and they more bang for the buck than any team in baseball, but they still sell off their favorite players. Evan Longoria made a joke today. He's coming back to sign a one-day contract to retire as a Ray. They're going to trade him the next day. And funny enough, they signed him to a $100 million contract. They traded him the next year.
Sounds like another team I'm very well aware of. And by the way, it's funny because I hear people say, well, the Rays, they kind of do that Moneyball thing. And I'm like, well, do you know who Moneyball was, with the movie was made after?
Yeah, but we perfected it.
Well, let me tell you this. Neither the A's or Rays are Moneyball right now. They're Major League. They're the movie Major League more than they are Moneyball, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I want to just
it makes complete sense.
I want to get one last thing here because I think this is important. Like, and you know this better than anybody else. The vibe among Rays fans in Tampa or even in Central Florida right now, is there, and I know there's some feelings about Sternberg and how things have not worked out and how this has been going on for a long time. There's fatigue, but is there concern right now that the team could relocate even to Orlando, even somewhere else? And I think like the idea of Portland, like that's not for the Rays to move there. I'll tell you another one. Utah's another market. We can talk about their $900 million too. I don't think the Rays, I would say there's 100% chance the Rays are not leaving Florida. That's my prediction. And I think that's a safe assumption. But I'm saying, like, are people on edge about this? Do they not care? Do they have trust in some sort of system or what they've been told? What's the vibe and the sentiment right now among the people who are fans?
I think it's fatigue. I think it's ownership fatigue and stadium fatigue. We've been talking about this for so long. And, for so long the conversation has been about the two areas not being the problem.
Right.
And now this last go round with St. Pete has revealed what I've been saying for 8 years. It's the owner. It's not the market.
Yeah.
And Major League Baseball has figured that out as well. By the way, I was told that when Manfred met with the Rays players in New York a couple weeks ago, he assured them that there's a Tampa Bay solution. So, and he didn't want that out publicly, but I've been told that they were assured that, because a lot of the players in the Players Association were like, "What's going on?"
Of course.
First of all, they love playing at Steinbrenner. At least they do until maybe the heat gets to them. But the clubhouse, they got the Yankees clubhouse,
right,
which they just built. It is fabulous. It's so much better than the Rays clubhouse.
Still the Yankees, right? But it's just this one and done, right? Like the Yankees, maybe
we'll see.
Bump up the rent a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
I can't see him going back to Tropicana Field. I just can't see.
I'm with you, and that makes all this even more crazy.
The players love it that they have a full house.
Yeah.
And it's not, the vibe there is fantastic. The fans are, most nights it's great. It's fantastic. The fans are into it. It's loud. It's crowded. There's a vibe. There's energy. There was not that at Tropicana Field 99% of the time. It was just, even when there was 10,000 in there, it was like a mausoleum. So they love it. They don't want to go back. They love that part of it. And the fans just have fatigue. They're just get something done. And have a lot of people now are just like, leave. We don't care anymore. Take Stu Sternberg and go. We don't care.
And that's what I worry about. Like I
don't think it's predominant.
Yeah.
I don't think that's predominant, but there's some feeling.
Right.
I would say it's 80% of people, 90% of the people want the ownership to change. Right. Just sell the damn team.
Right.
Sell it. And then I think they're losing every year this crap goes on. They're losing fans.
Yeah.
People are getting Sternberg fatigue, baseball fatigue. It's like, why? Like, my Lightning tickets are a lot of money. Why would I even go buy Rays tickets? I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm putting my money into Bucks. I'm putting it into Lightning. I'm putting it into going to see my college team play. I'm done with these people.
Yeah. Well,
so they've kind of robbed, as I say many times, Stu Sternberg has robbed the joy of Rays baseball from many of us with the way he's acted. And Major League Baseball is culpable in that because they have not forced him out like they should have.
I just feel like so many things you've said in this 35, almost 40 minutes we've been talking. I feel like I'm not kidding. Like, it's deja vu. I feel like I've been there. We've had these thoughts, and this is a situation that's played out. And I do agree with you earlier. You said these are not identical situations. Maybe they're not even similar, but I know there's more similar than different, I think, when you really take a step back and when the dust is kind of settling here about what happened in Oakland and what happened in Tampa. And JP, that's one of the reasons I'm a couple thousand miles away from you right now, but I'm so interested in this. I'm so invested in this. And I don't want to see history repeat itself as it just played out here. And so I don't have any control over it. I know you and I have talked about this before.
Doesn't matter what we say.
We are just here to try and translate what we know, who we know, how we understand it, and kind of put that on the table and just let everybody digest it. So
and the popularity of your videos shows people do care here. They really do care, and they want the Rays to stay. but they're done with Stu Sternberg.
I mean, I do this stuff because I am interested in it, but it's also, to your point, good to know that other people actually care like we do, and we're talking about it. So, hey, It's been too long that we didn't do this. I'm glad we did. Let's do it again down the road. We'll be in touch. I know we will.
I'll get you on my show, too.
Yeah,
That'll be fantastic.
Thank you for the time. I really do appreciate this. Take care, JP.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. By the way, real quick, JP Peterson Show.
Yes,
live, 10 to noon Eastern time. You can find us on YouTube, find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, The JP Peterson Show. Just Google us. You'll find us. We're here every day talking Tampa Bay sports and keeping you up to date on what's going on with the Rays.
You know I'm linking to all that stuff down below, right?
Yeah, I know
that's already been.
For those who don't read that crap,
there you
here's
go.
The audio part of it.
No, you're good.
Thanks,
you.
Brody.